from West USA Realty, this is Don't Do That with Managing Broker Bob Stevens, aka Broker Bob. What do you have for us today, Bob?
Well, good afternoon. I'm looking around here at a lot of things that are going on, and I was going to say I have a plethora of items here, or a plethora. What would it be? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I sent you an attachment called a residential purchase contract. We're going to go through some of that today, and there are some issues on that that we need to speak of. So that's why we're going to go through it. First, one of the things is that Tina Tambor, it's on later, she's saying that this, last week, she says this is the best October ever in real estate here in the Valley since she's been working on the Cromford report. So some of the stuff is going for 22.5% over value. That's a lot of good stuff there. I don't know if that's good or bad because the prices get up pretty high, and actually the prices of apartments and homes, it's probably a higher payment for an apartment. That's what she's saying. Not too much, but a little bit. So that's a strange thing. You can get a good loan, in other words, nowadays. So as we go along, if anybody wants to get in on that Cromford report, I've got some paperwork here. I think we can get somebody in on it. But of course, if you do that, then you can't listen to this, which is maybe better. But after I get through here, then I punch in on Tina's program, and she usually has a couple hundred people listening to her. I don't know that I have that many, but could be. One of the things I noticed here, one of the guys sent this to me. He just joined us. He's Commercial West USA, named Jim Caston. He's I've never met him, but so far he's quite a guy. He's a CCIM. He puts out something called the Greater Phoenix Apartment Owners Newsletter. Interesting stuff. He digs up this information, and he's got a lot of things going. So the prices are high too. Occupancy is very strong. Rents are leading the U.S. He says here, month over month, it's always rents are leaving. So in other words, if you want to buy an apartment building, it would be a good place to be. Hold on a second. I'm on a webinar right now. Office that wanted to speak to me, so I told her I'm on a webinar right now. Anyway, the apartment owners newsletter is just great, and if you ever got anything going in that line of work, why certainly give a call to a fellow named Jim Caston. I think it's Kasten. He's a nice guy. Nice guy. Haven't met him personally, but nice guy. Here's something else I got from Hull, Holiday and Holiday. These are attorneys called Dr. E. Victor on their website. That's where you go. But they've sent a COVID-19 urgent legal update. My goodness, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of this thing. There is a legal update that everybody should know about, and this goes on until the end of the year. I don't want to read this to you, but I'm happy to send it to you if you want to know what it says. Broker Bob at Cox.net. As for the COVID information, and I'll shoot it over to you. You can read it. And don't act on anything evicting people unless you read something like this so you know where you're at in case you have a property that you're renting out. So that's more good information. And I suggested to the broker that we get something made up by Hull Holiday, and so he's already done that for post possession and pre-possession, which seems to be now, I don't know if it's a problem. Of course, at any time you have a possession like that, it could be a problem. I got one right now where the people want to stay over and they want to install new carpeting in the property, but they also have 5 cats and a rabbit. So you wonder what's going to happen to the carpeting if that's the case. I don't know. We'll have to see how that one works out. And don't think it's closed yet. Then I've got solar, real estate, and what you need to know. I don't know if some of you got this or not, but this is a good class. And I'm going to take the class. It's from 9 to noon on Wednesday. It's a Zoom class. Admission is free. And if somebody wants this information, I'm happy to shoot that over to you too. It's a 3-hour class. And this lady that's teaching it says you will know more about solar than the actual owners. So it would be a good idea to do this. I just think it would be very good to know more than we do know about solar and lease requirements, leases, and disclosures, and whatever. We had an issue with one of them recently, and it went on, and actually there was more to it than what we knew. Somebody had a lien against, well, they didn't have a lien against the property, but for 2 years they had never filed it with the state or anything. So it was, of course, missed by the title company, but yet it was still owing. And the buyer knew that she owed it. And we come to a good conclusion on that one. It took us about a month to get it wrapped up, but I was glad to have been working on that particular one, because then it makes you curious what could happen in these cases. So I think you need to, if you got time, take a look, and you'll get 3 hours of credit. I don't need the credit hours, but I'm going to take it. Instructor is Tara Rutkowski, put on by Desert Sage Seminars. And let me know if you want to get in on this, and I'll shoot this over to you so you can get signed up for it. Mission is free, and you get credit hours. Let's see, I had a problem come in this morning. One of the guys called me up. And he says, the title company, we're getting ready to close on a property. Title company won't allow him to be there to represent his client. Can they do that? Well, I suppose they could. But I took a look at all of this, and actually the seller is a new home builder. So he says he wants to represent his clients and make sure that they get taken care of. Well, actually, are they his clients? Well, yes, in some ways, but no in other ways, because we turn these people over to the new home builder, and they will pay us for doing so, and they write the contract. Everything goes down according to the way they're going to run it, and that's okay. And they send a check over at the end. And then there's the walkthrough inspection, and that'll probably be tomorrow or the next day. You see, you sign the contract, the final papers, you sign all of those first, and then you get the final walkthrough. And normally, you get a chance to do a walkthrough, but 30 days later is when they've got to get it done, within 30 days. So does that happen every time? Yeah, pretty much. As a matter of fact, Bernadette and I have bought more than one new home, and we understand that, and we take the 30 days and then we sign the papers and let everything happen, and they do it. Yeah, they do it. So it's pretty nice the way that it goes. So I just thought I'd mention that because that's a problem that just came in this morning. Okay, now you've got the residential purchase contract there. It's one of the attachments, and well, I don't know if you've got it kicked out yet, but it's something you can get done right now. And let's see what we got going on this. I've got it all redlined so that you can see what we're going to talk about. And we'll start with the first one here. It says, upon acceptance of this offer, sometimes people don't put the earnest money in right away. Well, you see, it says upon acceptance of the offer, you got to deposit it with the escrow company, which we don't really want it in the broker's trust account. It could go there if there was a circumstance where we needed to. Also, if it's an all cash sale, next thing, a letter of credit or a source of funds is attached. So most of the time, people will wait until maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 days before they want to give you that source of funds. Well, you need to do that when you turn the contract over to the other party, your offer. That's the way it should be done. And you got to close escrow on a certain date, like on line 24, as it says. Well, what date is that? Look that over carefully and think about that. If you do it on a Friday, that's when you're going to close escrow. Everybody does it on a Friday. So all the title companies are going crazy trying to get these things done. Well, I used to, when I was selling property, I tried to close them like Wednesday or Thursday because there's more time happening there. But it says seller shall deliver possession to the buyer at close of escrow. So that's something you got to get the sellers thinking about getting out on that day. They've got to actually, supposed to be out when it closes because they've got to give possession the next minute. Possession. If somebody comes there with a key and wants in, they own the house. You don't own it anymore. The seller doesn't own it. So that's an interesting thing, but it hardly ever works out that way because agents do not stress upon the importance of people getting ready to move out. So if there is any kind of a holdover, post possession, or anything like that, the parties are recommended to seek independent counsel from insurance, legal, tax, and accounting professionals regarding the risk of pre-possession and post-possession of the premises. And there are risks there. And then they turn around and want us to handle it. Well, we're not lawyers or anything, but we do have a different bunch of forms and everything that we can use, and we try to help as much as we can. Okay, next item then we have is addenda incorporated. And there's a lot of things there. As you can see, there's many of them that you want to include with this. But most important probably is a solar lease and solar loan assumption addendum. That's really important. And that's why this class that we're doing here on Wednesday would be a great one to attend. And I hope that somebody will take me up on that, because I think it's going to be a good one. And then where it says other, I just wrote in there COVID-19 addendum. Someday, I hope we don't have that anymore or have to worry about it, but we'll have to see. In the meantime, you should probably have that addendum. There's 2 places to mark it. There's I think line 18 and line 24 or something like that. Me and my wife always go to line 18 and take care of it there, but read it and understand what it says. Then we go over to the next page here, page 2, about refrigerator, washer, and dryer, and it says description. And for crying out loud, give me a description. What is it? Take a picture of it. The descriptions I see mostly in contracts, as they'll put in there, as seen at showing. Well, what does that mean? Who has an idea? I don't know. And there's other personal property description if you're going for something else. And additional personal property shall not be considered part of the premises and transferred with no monetary value and free and clear. That's for the lenders that think you've got something worth money there, and the appraisers, they'll deduct that much off if they think it's got value of some kind. So, then financing, an AAR pre-qual form is attached here too, if they're getting a loan, and incorporated. So make sure that is on there. Don't just not put it on there, getting too big of a hurry there. Then we have the unfulfilled loan contingency. That's something to read over and understand. So it says on there, it talks about PTD conditions. What does that mean? It means prior to documents, is what the 3 initials mean. So we go down to the loan status update. You're going to get that 10 days after contract acceptance, and instruct the lender to provide an updated LSU to the brokers and the seller upon request. Okay. Within 10 days. These are all things that need to be taken care of as you're going down the line on this stuff. The appraisal contingency is the next thing on line 107. It says that the buyer has 5 days after notice of the appraised value to cancel his contract and receive a refund of the earnest money if it doesn't appraise. Well, you need to make sure you watch those days, because usually 2 agents keep going back and forth on this stuff. Well, that's not good. You got 5 days, get it done. Don't yada yada too much, and put it in writing. So that's important that you get it in writing. It says appraisal cost, and I have buyers trying to get their money back because they paid for an appraisal and they want the owner to give them the money back when the deal cancels out or something. It's non-refundable. It tells you that on line 112. So you don't get it back. Any appraiser, lender required inspection costs shall be paid for by the buyer. So if there's some inspection costs, and sometimes you have to go back out to make sure that something was painted or whatever, that will be paid by the buyer. Something that I thought was interesting too here on line 115, escrow. It says this contract shall be used as escrow instructions. We haven't had escrow instructions for years, quite a few years. Do you know what escrow instructions are? Some people do because we used to have them. Several pages of escrow instructions. But now they've got it so that the contract acts as the escrow instructions. So if you're wondering what that means, and I don't know that you are, but that's what it means. No escrow instructions, the contract will be. Title investing. How do you take title? Well, that's kind of something you wonder where to go with. How do you take title? We had one the other day where it was a man and his wife, and later on he doesn't want the wife on there, so they have to change things as far as taking title. That's something you go to the title company with, and they'll advise you and tell you how you need to go. So, and sometimes you want a lawyer in on that because you never know what you're getting into. And certainly a commitment for title insurance, and the ones that will remain as exceptions, the buyer's policy of title insurance. Always read the exceptions. Sometimes you're not covered for everything, and you need to know what that is. And if you find out what it is and you don't like it, you got 5 days to get canceled out. So it's very important that Schedule B of a title insurance, that you take a close look along with your agent and make sure that everything's going right. Okay, release of earnest money. And this is something I was involved in one time. In the event of earnest money, it's taken care of by the title company in its sole and absolute discretion. Whatever they decide, their lawyers or whatever, that's the way it's going to be because it says so in the contract. Seller's property disclosure statement. Got 3 days, as you can see, to get that out. Insurance claims history. Got 5 days after contract acceptance. Look at those numbers there and understand that those are important, those days. Foreign sellers. Well, who's a foreign seller? We don't know, but hopefully we find out. And they may have federal income taxes up to 15% of the purchase price withheld. And they leave that up to the seller to withhold it. Well, the seller doesn't do it, the title company does it. And they're sure going to do it. So make sure that everybody is aware of that. That's important. It's called FERPTA. And we have the lead-based paint disclosure. Is there any lead-based paint out there? I guess I've seen it once or twice out there in the years. I suppose there's more of that in different older parts of the city. It might be lead-based paint and everything, but it's something that's very important, and there's a big fine on that if you don't take care of it. I believe it's something like $16,000, and they get after the agent regarding that. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to this. It isn't just nothing, it means something. So make sure you take care of the lead-based paint. The affidavit of disclosure. Their premises are located in an unincorporated area of the county. So read that through and understand what that means. You will need the affidavit of disclosure. Of course, that's in your zip forms. Take care of it there. Changes during escrow. If you update the spuds or anything, you got 5 days to disapprove any updates. All of these letters and numbers, everything is in here. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to that. And then something that a lot of agents don't know, but it says condition of premises. Buyer and seller agree the premises are being sold in its present physical condition. as of the date of contract acceptance. So that's in there. However, buyers get a chance to do an inspection of the property. And usually it's 10 days. They do an inspection and see if they want anything fixed. They do have a right to ask for it, and maybe the seller will do it. Perhaps they will. Well, there's always that little discussion, and a lot of times offering money. So that's been jumped on by the lawyers lately, and we'll have a new look at that one of these days here very soon. We'll see what that works out to be. Buyer warrants that buyer is not relying on any verbal representations. Well, they do get verbal stuff and they believe it. Don't ever believe the verbal thing. It's in writing or it doesn't exist. Like Judge Judy might say, it doesn't exist. It's not in writing. Due diligence. This is an important one right here. Had this happened recently. Somebody, a buyer, was doing inspections and then noticed that there's discoloration in the ceiling and wanted to call it on the Benzer. So they did. They called it on the Benzer and said that the seller needs to cut a hole in the ceiling and check for mold infestation. Well, do sellers do that? No, they don't do inspections. Apparently, the agent didn't know that, nor did the buyers anyway, but they don't do inspections. So they sent that over, and it turns out that actually sent it over, and the agent was a dual agent on that. So, wow, now we got some other issues to take care of there and see if we can get that thing closed up. So that was an interesting little kerflunkle or whatever you want to call it. We'll see how that works out. Square footage, I got that the other day too. Do you notice how this is written? Square footage, it's very dark, bold, and in capital letters all the way through. Square footage. The square footage was wrong. And now the other agent is hollering at us over here saying the square footage is wrong and we want a reduction in the price. Well, you got a chance to check it out during the inspection period. You're not getting a reduction in the price. So that's that. And the square footage was wrong. Wood destroying organisms or insects. There's another thing. Sometimes they find scorpions later. Well, there's a chance to find it right there. You need to check for scorpions and make sure that they're not around. Flood hazard designations. Well, that's something nobody ever thinks of. Is there requirements for flood insurance? Yeah, there sure is. It's going to cost some money sometimes. Sometimes it's pretty expensive for flood insurance. But there it is. So think about it. Make sure you got that covered. And usually you start thinking about these things even before you get into contract. It's a good thing to know what this contract says. Next item over here on page 6 talks about sewer on-site wastewater treatment. There's another one, big bold print. If it's a material matter to you, it must be investigated during the inspection period. So there's a lot of things there. And looks like we're going to have to cut it off there because the time has come to the end here, 1:30. On that point right there next week and finish this thing up. Well, thank you all very much for listening. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.